So quick note. I want to reboot this podcast. I'll reboot it a million times if I have to. But the main thing I think holding me back right now is just comfortability with the camera. I think a lot of people think my personality knows no limits when it comes to embarrassment or being shy or something like that. But there's something about being in front of a camera or seeing yourself on camera or talking in a way that can be paused, edited, redone. Just that knowledge. In real life, when I'm talking to people, strangers out in the world, goofing off, I know there's rarely any takebacks. The stakes are more or less real, although, unimportant. And it's live, it's improv, it's crowd engagement, which is one reason why I think I want to take the podcast live, is because I think that it will be better for everyone, but also better for me. A little bit more natural, even in the unnatural, artificial environment of making videos and posting and that kind of stuff. So, anyways, I'm working on rebooting. I just bought a massive poster that you're gonna see in the first episode of the reboot. Still outlining the vision and the mission of the podcast. What is really the nucleus of the podcast? Because the first time we started up, it is really just to start. The reason I'm making this video is just to start. I mean, rather than having a studio, look, I put a blue light in a bucket next to my my paper shredder, which I don't have a trash can small enough to put it on top of, so I use that curtain hanger. Anyways, my really nice studio here, which will someday be pretty nice. I'm showing this because it not being perfect is the thing stopping me from starting, and I'm embracing that it's not perfect and starting because I know that the momentum will help. So, a quick story that I wanted to share was there's this guy who's a security guard at my work, and he's the most genuine, thoughtful, kind security guard. He's always there just greeting people, asking people. He remembers everybody's name. And this guy takes the job of sitting at a desk, maybe dealing with an emergency every once in a while. And he takes it very, very seriously. I mean, if everyone took their jobs as seriously as Billy takes his job at the front desk for security, the whole world would be high performers. Because he is supposed to be a presence. And we were talking about things that were going wrong in the world, and he said, we were just talking about things in the news, and we're talking about things that we think that would make the biggest impact as far as solving some of the world's problems. He said solve the homelessness problem. That would be a big one. I mentioned fatherlessness, which probably is tied to homelessness in large part. But he was telling me, he said that's so true about the fatherlessness. And he says that he sits out on his front porch all the time, and that young people come by and they just talk to him. He just sits on his front porch, and young people are coming by to talk to him. And there are a lot of young people out there who don't have an adult who is asked them questions, is interested in what they're working on. And as a high school teacher, it brought back these memories of how really it's like it takes nothing. It takes almost nothing. Well, it takes something. You have to care enough and put aside whatever you're worried about to think that what is trivial in the lives of the stresses of a teenager or high schooler or something are seemingly small compared to maybe what other people with a lot of responsibilities have. But it makes such a big impact. And I remember there are people in my life who I looked up to who, when they even showed the slightest amount of approval or interest, or said, wow, that's cool that you learned that, or whatever, those are the things that you remember, that you latch onto. Those are the older cousins you have, or the older siblings, or the older or the mentors in your life, that they turn their gaze from the things that are important in their world and that of all their responsibilities, and they say, what's important to you? Tell me about what's important to you and why, and then let me sort of step into your world, and because that's important. And anyway, so he was talking about this, and I told him, I said, do you know why? And I was telling this to Billy, our security guard. I said, do you know why I'm not surprised that young people walking past your house would stop and actually talk to you? And he said, why? I said, because Billy, you have unconditional presence. I made this up on the spot. I generally make things up on the spot, and then usually I just use my I use like just like the highest level of vocabulary I can to kind of justify what I had just thrown against the wall to see if any of it stuck. And then like I'll piece it together, and like once I have a 3 points, then I'll just triple down and be like, no, I definitely meant what I said on the front end. That was a great idea. But this is the live improv that I'm talking about. That the live improv is like, I'll throw something out there quickly, and then let me see what I can like justify. So, but once I did that process, I pulled something out. I said, he has unconditional presence. And I was just thinking about this question that I brought up of fatherlessness. And really, to me, what I think the world is lacking, maybe one thing, maybe not the thing, is like unconditional presence of a father. And if you think about it, that's how God is, but that's how real men are. I mean, look at some of my brothers with their kids, and it's not really, little kids especially, like they just kind of like want to be in the vicinity of their parents, but they also want to be like left alone to play. And so you can kind of see, like, a good friend of mine, my godson, like, I think I remember him telling me that kids want their dad and they want their mom to be there, but they also want to be, free to play and just know that they're in their presence. And I think the next level of that, the next piece of that as life goes on, is really that there aren't any conditions, right? There aren't any, with Billy, right? Billy doesn't care about like what you got going on as you're passing by. He's not looking for anything from you. He's just there to say, like, I'm here. How are you doing? It's the same interaction every time. But there's something kind of like, there's something very, I don't want to say like poetic about it. I don't know what the right word is. Something profound about it. Something kind of deep about the way he approaches that superficial moment. And because he's all in, like he's all in that moment. He's totally, and you can feel it. And why? Because it demands that you reciprocate. Because how present he is and attentive to the people coming by, and how genuine he is, for you to just be like, hey, it's like you can tell it's like it would be a huge disappointment and almost a disrespect to the level of investment he's put into that small moment. And it's not a pressure. It's not like a pressure or a guilt or a neediness. Billy's doesn't need anything. He's having a great day with or without you. But the fact that he still gives that attentiveness to the moment, I don't know. I think that, I guess what I'm getting at is here's the kickoff. The bad analogies, Reboot 2.0 is maybe all of us need to be kind of like security guards, the front desk of our friends and family's lives. Maybe we don't need to be the main character or the reason they're coming into our presence, but maybe we just need to be more present to them, unconditionally present. And it doesn't even need to be for a long time. And I'm not saying, like, I'm having this realization. I'm not saying that I'm doing this actively right now. I'm just saying, like, the bad analogy is maybe fathers should take a note from Billy the security guard or Billy on the front porch, is that he's there. He's always there. He allows you to kind of dictate the passing in and out, right? Because a father doesn't have any neediness. He doesn't have a neediness because he's the provider. He is the giver. He is the the lover. He's the father. And so he's just there to give. He begets. So maybe good fathers should be like good security guards, good doormen, not unimportant, not without their profound bond and relationship and love, but they're there without any conditions, without any neediness, but with total engagement to the few moments that they get. And I can see this with my own dad. It's like, well, the few times that we see when I see my parents throughout the month or the week, I can see this with my dad, where I'm just like him, where my mind, the second I hear something that makes me think of something worth quoting or repeating, I go straight to that. But his way of, you can see that he is totally present. He's totally present because he's glad you're there. Like Billy. And he's not mad when you leave. He's happy when you show up. He's happy for the interaction that is happening. And he sends you on your way, hopefully better than you were when you walked in the door. And anyways, so this is kind of where I want the podcast to go. Are a couple of core thoughts. The idea of bad analogies started with Gilbert Huff in The Incredibles, in that iconic scene where Mr. Incredible chokes out his boss and throws him through the wall, because he gives a bad analogy, right? A dehumanizing analogy for human beings just being cogs in a machine in the corporate environment. And I loved it because he had a bunch of clocks behind him, and it was this whole... He chose the wrong analogy, because human beings should only be analogous to a living thing, not a mechanical thing. They should be analogous to an organism, like a body, or even a plant or an animal. But they can't be likened to something that's a cog in a machine. And bad things happen when you start to use bad analogies for important things. And so Mr. Incredible proves that by saying, like, this guy was worth throwing through the wall for this. And people get mugged in the street, trampled underfoot, when you use these dehumanizing analogies to operate your business or operate your life or shape your worldview. So, but then it got me thinking about, like, what are good analogies? And I think something that I want this show to become is maybe, a call-in or a live interaction or crowdsourced content about what are the best analogies what are the best analogies you've heard from a mentor or a mother or a father. What do you think is the most useful analogy? What's the best analogy you've come up with to teach something that was true, or that was like, a clarifying thing? Because I use analogies all the time. I don't think I hardly can go one conversation learning something new without trying to say, so it's like this to this. Usually if there's a laugh, it's better, but we'll get to that on another day. But bringing it full circle to Billy to fathers, and bad analogies. Every single human being is a bad analogy for God. Every human being is an image of God, but a limited one, a sinful one, a broken one. But there are some things, even in bad analogies, that line up. And there's little glimmers of, well, you had me. It was like, oh, it worked. It was 1 for 1 until, like, you started adding. It's like, oh, like life is like a box of chocolates or something like that. Until all of a sudden you start talking too much about, like, the gooey cherry center or, like, the caramel stuck in your teeth. And then you're like, how is life? Life is, it gets carried away. Human beings, the further and further we get away from what we're supposed to be, the analogy becomes less and less clear. I know this from experience. But when we are when we are striving to become more like an image of God, we are like almost we're becoming a better analogy, something that actually is actually instructionally helpful, something that's actually uh, a parallel lesson of what God is, or who God is, or how he is. So if I was to sort of reconstitute the show, if I was to kind of say where it's going to be headed, it's going to be live, it's going to be more engagement with people, and it's going to be crowdsourced analogies and topics, but talking about a lot of things, but really trying to find good analogies and bad analogies. Really, bad analogies is just, like I said earlier, it's an excuse. The title is an excuse to try and do good analogies, but when it fails, we're still meeting the bar of the title. But really want the show to be about good analogies, and one of them I think that is a worthy start to kind of kick off the reboot is this idea of all of us trying to be analogously like a good security guard, a good a unconditionally present doorman to the people in our life. I think that one way that I'm gonna start doing that is like not being on my phone when I'm with people. I mean, I'm on my phone a lot. It's almost impossible to tell when I'm on it because it's so second nature. But Billy's never on his phone. Billy's never on his phone when you walk by. And that's why there is an opportunity for that. So, anyways, I I almost resent having to jump in to the internet and say, oh, I want to know what you guys think. But it's different when it's your ideas and stuff that you're talking about. When you say that, if I got two people to come back and tell me something that they think about this, I would legitimately be happy about it. And I think that by me posting this right now, it's just kind of me saying, it's kind of me making the internal statement to myself that all of the professionalism or the growth or the looks of the show is not really something that I really want to concern myself with right now. I really want to concern myself with doing it and documenting the process, getting comfortable, being uncomfortable with talking to the camera and posting imperfect stuff until it gets better and better and better, which it will. So anyways, that's going to conclude my vlogger. I don't think that I said hey guys once in this video. That'll be a goal, never to say hey guys. Never gonna say welcome back to my channel. I'm never gonna say welcome to another video. And you know, like, comment, and subscribe, all that stuff. I'm gonna find another way to do it, I guess. But I mean, if this is what you have to do, if this is what you got to do, if that's gonna be the barrier for me posting videos, I'm just gonna go full throttle with it. I'm gonna say like, comment, and subscribe. I will say the mantra of the occult religion. No, I'm just kidding. Disavow. I disavow any. I disavow any fake participation in any type of metaphorical cultish religions. But I just want you guys to know that I am rebooting, and we will be back exploiting every loophole, dodging every obstacle, and penetrating the bureaucracy. So let's get started.